might have heard it.
You need to get your Gemara.
Would be good to sell here.
The word exactly store. What do you think, Dad? That's usually when we try to do.
We saw the 340 million.
I gotta be here. Well, 40, 25. Well, we're getting settled. I'm going to start momentarily the learning sponsors. So when Reb Shimon gets here, hopefully, it'll take off. Okay. Okay, a year of learning. Friends of Herb Jeremiah, Sri Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Kohen, those who were inspired by our Rebbe Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka Bat Meshulam Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vachana, Fisher Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi V'Tzipora, Isra Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Vachana. Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Brana, in memory of her husband, Arav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel, friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch Leib HaKohen, friends and family of Sigi Bessler, Shalom Shraga Ben Dov, friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer Ben Yisrael Aharon, Sarah Alpert, in memory of her husband, Arav Tzvi Lipa Ben Hillel. We have a month of learning by Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father, Yoshua Shir Ben Moshe Yehuda Cohen, Ike and Evelyn Blachor, Hakarat Hatov, for his continuing recovery from recent surgery, Rabbi Dr. Yankee and Malki Honig, in memory of his mother, Rabbanit Hensha Ita Bat Chaim Yehuda, Hannah and David Grunblatt, in memory of her mother, Rose Bas Chaim, Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of her father, Yaakov Ben Yosef, be Pizer, in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal Ben Shmuel Halevi, be Pizer, in memory of her mother, Razel Bat Shammai, Jerry and Sharon Glassman, in memory of his mother, Malka Yehudis Bat Eliyahu, Henry Katz and children, in memory of his wife, Lila Leah Mincha Bat Yehuda, Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega Bat Yaakov, Andrea and David Dolmy, in memory of her mother on 20th and her yurtzeit, Adel Tzina Bat Shimshon. A week of learning by Andrew and Stephanie Becker, in memory of his sister Yocheved Bat Ze'ev. Evelyn and Isaac Blachor, in memory of her mother, Pero Rivka Bat Rav Menachem Mendel Eliezer. Dita Luxemburg, in memory of her mother, Martha Gitler Chana Bat Yeshaya. Baruch and Dina Rabinowitz, in memory of his father, Zeb Ben Chaim. Rena and Alan Mosak, in memory of her father, Meir Ben Yosef. Harriet Brick and Rabbi Moshe Kranzler, in memory of David Dolney's sister, Deborah Dolney. Okay, and today being the 25th, we have a day of learning by Sam Levine and Charles Gelfenstein, in memory of Sam's mother and Charles' mother-in-law, Zissel Bat Yehoshua. Hashem is having Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Valti Yeshir, Hashem Latzliah, Choban Israel, a good gebench job.
Was him in Rucker?
In what?
Was he in the main school?
Not in that show, not in that, no, I didn't see him in the 7:30 maybe. Okay, well, he's got, I mean, that's for yet. In the meantime, we'll try to figure out where we are, right? So what do we do for guys who don't use it?
Aye, aye,
I don't think so.
aye. We say just the opposite. 114B2.
I believe, so we'll be starting with Amarle Rav Asi Rav. Does that sound, with anybody else who was with me yesterday afternoon? Does that sound? That sounds about right. Yeah, I couldn't take a pen and mark it yesterday afternoon.
Okay, he was in the lower. Yeah, could use these on sound. Think so.
I don't possibly. That's to keep you paid. Okay. Oh, I see. That's there you go. So we'll wait another minute or two. All right. Baruch haba. I got no fun.
Well, yeah, I just.
When I was down in it's something.
Bye. Bye,
Glad to see you wore something a little. heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. Not bad.
And we did the
That gets you back,
already, so whenever you're
In 1 second, I'll be ready.
whenever you're ready.
1 second.
Okay, we are on 114B. If you're using Art School, it's a decimal B2. Okay, if you're not using Art School, we're about, I would say 1/3 down the Amud. I'm going to guess with Amarle Rav Ashi Rava Tashma. It's just above the Tosafot that starts Matnit.
I think we might get dropped. You feel valid? Okay, we were. I think we're up to Nachal, Rabbi. Up Nachal, I think it is. In the skinny, in the skinny lines above the fat lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines above the fat lines on 114B. But the swarm of bees. That's what I think, the Nachal. Hey, Nachal Shel Dvarim. Yeah. That's right, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's okay. All right. So v'chei Nachal Shel Dvarim. Here we are.
It's equal to the where it says in Tosafot, the Gemara, under that.
Okay. Yeah. So Nachal Dvarim, the bees are a problem because things that you don't remember. Part of ownership is that you have some kind of control over what you own. And bees, we hear the expression like herding cats. So bees also, like, how do you herd bees? It's very hard to assert one's ownership. We're going to see in a minute that in general ownership over swarms of bees is really rabbinic because nobody can really control them. So we learned the following. So the Mishnah used the funny language. It said, similarly, when it comes to a swarm of bees, if the owners gave up hope, so then the person can acquire those. What do you mean the same? Huh? I didn't know that, but the Gemara doesn't seem to feel that you can hold on to it. Maybe it's hard to pick her out. I don't really know. I don't know the answer, but good. Okay. Yeah, swarm. It's a swarm. It's a swarm. Yes, when they leave. That's what do you mean? What? With the queen? Okay, then you got me. I don't know. I don't know the answer. We have to learn. Okay. Similarly, when it comes to the swarm of bees, What do you mean similarly? There's no difference to say. Why should you make a difference? Say similarly. What's special about it? So the Gemara says, even when it comes to a swarm of bees, the kinyan in the rabbanon, who even though what a person's ownership is only rabbinic, okay, that the rabbis consider it, and really from the Torah, the person doesn't really own them. So I would think he says, hey, came in the rabbanon ba'amu the since over here. Hi, this is because since it's only rabbinic ownership, I feel a stamina. I could say what even give up hope. Here I'll have a right to assume that they did. No, I mean, still, even though it's only rabbinic ownership, if the owners gave up hope, you own them afterwards, you low, and if not, not. We said, we said a woman or a minor who are not normally valid witnesses, okay, they can say, oh, this is where the swarm came from. We return to that guy, Hulu. Isha Katmade, this new, okay, so Gemara says what? How could it be? How could they give us testimony? He said, this is a special case. This is a case where the owners were running after them. We see a woman or a child speaking innocently. I'll explain in a minute. They say from here the swarm came, so we can rely on it. No, not everything has the status of testimony. The same way in a court, let's say we can have a person be an expert in a certain field. They happen to know something. We get information from them. So not everything we do in front of the judges is testimony. Sometimes we just get information. So there's ways to get information without testimony. What is that? When a person who is not legally a witness but speaks innocently, well, it's just like examining a tree or a cell or a chemical. In other words, I can get information without the legal status of a testimony. When a person speaks innocently and I have no reason to believe that they are that they're performing for us, etc., so I can rely on that knowledge. Ravashi said a very strange thing. He said, but 1 second. Rashi said the only time we accept innocent testimony, in other words, just a person speaking innocently and accepted as fact, is only when it comes to the testimony to allow a woman to remarry. Why is that? A woman's husband has disappeared. Well, she can do what she wants. She says, we're telling her, listen, we don't know if your husband's dead. She said, listen, he's dead. Don't worry about it. I know he's dead. I'll be responsible. So how can we hold her back? The answer is, okay, so really the truth is, it is in a certain respect her prerogative. But what we do is we say like this. We make a rule. If a woman remarries wrongfully, she loses every way. She has to leave both husbands. She doesn't get the money. She doesn't get this. She really has a severe punishment. So we essentially, when a woman wants to remarry, we're very lenient because she's essentially going to marry on her own volition and be responsible for what she does. So we're so reliant upon her worrying about her own welfare, we can basically let things go. So there, when it comes to testifying that a husband's dead, we can use innocent language, innocent speech, even though from a person who's not necessarily a legal witness. He says 1 second, how can you tell me that innocent speech is only good by testimony for a woman to remarry? Who told us? We saw clearly from Mishnah, and we just said when it came to the swarm of bees, we just learned we just said that was the case. The woman and the child were speaking. See, you do accept it. No, he says over there it's special. Why? Because remember the swarm of bees, okay, it's only the kinyan Rabbananu, it's only a rabbinic kinyan. So for that, we don't need that much, and we can use the innocent speech of women and children. So 1 second again. You want to tell me that I cannot use innocent speech for Torah law? I'll show you that I can. Didn't we learn? There was once a guy speaking innocently. He said, I remember when I was a baby, when I was a child, and I used to ride daddy's shoulders. They take me out of school. They would take off my shirt. They dump me in the mikvah. Since they were going to serve truma that night, we were for kohanim. We were a family of kohanim. So at a school to make sure I was clean to eat truma, they would dump me in the daytime. So by the time the sun would go down, I could eat truma for dinner. And Rabbi Chanina was saying Bahachi, he said further, and my friends used to stay away from me not to make me unclean. They used to call me Yochanan, the challah eater. Everybody knew that I was a kohen. On the basis of this innocent testimony, Rabbi made this person let him eat truma like a kohen alpiv. Okay, so Mar says, you see what? So even for Torah law, to allow him to eat truma, only a kohen can eat truma. We relied on innocent testimony. Speak about truma in their times after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, when truma was only rabbinic for rabbinic laws. speech. But again, so we maintain our position that innocent speech is only good without true testimony for rabbinic laws and not for Deraisa laws. I Vikati, still whatever, Deraisa law. They tell me no Deraisa, Valki Ato, Rav Dimi. Didn't we learn Rav Dimi? When Dimi came to Babel, Amar Rav Chana Katigno, Amar Rav Achav Katig Mishtoi. Okay, he used to tell the following: Maisa Balif Nebu Yeshua and Levi. A certain case came in front of him. Rami Law Maisa Balif Nebu. Some people say the case came in front of Rabbi. Betina Kechat Shevasich Levituma. One child was speaking innocently. He had been taken captive with his mother. So we're always worried when a Jewish woman's taken captive, we're worried, Rahmanis, that they're violated by the goyim, and a woman who was violated by goy is forbidden to a kohen. So we don't. So we're always worried when a woman's taken captive, even though she claims everything is fine, but we're afraid that they violated her. Ramar, so this kid said, "I need me and my mother were taken captive by the goyim." When I went to draw water, my mind was always conscious of my mother that they shouldn't violate her. When I went to gather wood, my mind was on my mother; they shouldn't violate her. And on the basis of this child's memory, Rebbe allowed the woman to marry a Kohen and said she wasn't violated. So you see that even for a Torah prohibition of a woman that's unfit for a Kohen that might be unfit for a Kohen to marry a Kohen, we relied on innocent speech. The answer is B'shuya Kilo. Again, when it comes to a captive woman, they are lenient. Why is that? Because remember, it's not for sure that a woman was taken captive that she was violated. Unfortunately, it's a thing that we're very afraid of, but still it's only in doubt. And since it's not for sure, it's not a chazaka, it's not a status quo that she was violated, so it's enough to have innocent speech. It's not really like a Torah law. So we don't. I have to say that not everything is a suffix like that. It's a good point, but no, a suffix has to be like I have a reason to believe it happened. I don't know anything happened here. That's the difference. No, to give you an example, here at the night I go to sleep and I put after Shabbos I put my cholent on one shelf in the refrigerator and I put the milk on one shelf in the refrigerator. When I get up the next morning, how can I eat the cholent? Maybe some milk went into it. The answer: I have no reason to believe that. That's it. It's not enough. It's not enough to say that it happened. Okay, we said that the person cannot. We said when the person wants to retrieve his bees, so he can't cut off the branch in his neighbor's yard that they went on, even though he wants to pay them. That was the first opinion. And Rishon Broka said no, he's allowed to do it and pay the guy. Tanya, Rishon Broka, where we learn Tanai Basin. This was a decree of the Beis Din, a condition. All these things, and a man is allowed to go to his friend's field, and he can cut over he can cut his friend's branch off his tree to save his swarm of bees, because he can't pick them off one by one, and he's going to pay him. And the owner of the tree is going to get reimbursed for the branch from the bees that this person saved. The Tanai Beis Din, when it's also a condition that the Beis Din makes, even though we're going to contradict this in a minute, by the way, that let's say one guy's bucket of honey, honey's more valuable than wine. So the guy's bucket of honey, pitcher of honey, is spilling. This guy's going to spill out. This guy's going to spill out his container of wine. And I'll save his friend's honey, which is more valuable. And he will be reimbursed for his own wine that he gave away to save it from the honey of his friend. Tonight, Beis Din, who it's also a condition of Beis Din, if a person has a donkey laden with wood, which is cheaper, and his friend has a donkey laden with flax, which is more expensive, and the flax donkey dies, so he's gonna throw off his own wood from his own donkey, and he'll be reimbursed for the wood, which is less from the flax of his friend that he saved, because this was a condition that Yeshua gave out the land of Israel to the Jewish people. And again, we discussed many times, the rabbis make decrees to make sure that society functions. We have to make sure people lend money. We have to make sure people can buy things, etc. We do not want a society that's overregulated. It's clear the rabbis were really, really not into that. Even though, somebody asked me the other day, it's true. The Torah has many things that you would call patriarchal or socialistic, but those are in the gifts to the poor, gifts to Kohanim, etc., etc. But the marketplace is pretty much, the marketplace is capitalistic. However, there are times when the rabbis have to give a push to keep capitalism going, to keep commerce going. The rabbis have to do certain things to make sure that money's available, etc. Okay, we have to do. The people have to live. Okay. Furthermore, now we're going to learn something interesting. a person when a person's stuff is stolen and he recognizes his stolen goods in the hands of someone else. What's going to be? Hamakir Caleb Usvar Biadacher, a guy was stolen from, and he sees that his utensils or his books are in somebody else's hands. He knows that's his, that's what was stolen from him. And the rumor has gone out, the word is out, everybody knows that he was stolen from, everybody knows it. So the buyer will swear how much he gave, how much he paid for this stolen goods that he didn't know were stolen, obviously. But Yitol, and he collects the money from the owner of the utensils, okay, and he gives them back, but he gets paid for it. We're going to see why. We're going to see that the rabbis also did this. Otherwise, because look, if you have to every time you buy something in the market and it turns out it was stolen, you're going to lose it. People are not going to buy from each other. Everybody's going to sit down and look for a pedigree. You're going to have to go get licensing, etc. Again, you're going to freeze the market. Nobody's going to be able to buy. So the rabbis decreed that that if somebody bought something on not knowing that it was stolen, that even though theoretically the owner has a right to take it back, but no, the owner's going to pay them. So otherwise people will be afraid to buy and sell in the marketplace, and they're going to buy. We're going to see that's called takana sashuk. The imlav, okay. But if there was no rumor out, if the word wasn't out that he was stolen from Abloka, then we're not going to believe him that it's his stolen stuff. We're afraid, no, really, what he sold this stuff to somebody else, and this guy bought it, and it really was all legal. Okay, my hobby. 1 second. What good is it? Even if there's a rumor that this guy was stolen from, why should we trust the guy who claims that it's his property and he's going to get it back? Maybe let's be afraid. Maybe what he sold this stuff, and then he put out the rumor that he was stolen from. You know, when people are dishonest, they get a lot of tricks. The guy sells the things, and he goes, "Oh, my stuff was stolen. That guy has it." So he said, "What?" The answer is, "What?" You're right. He says it's not enough. Okay, Ahmad v'hifkin b'layla. Here's what happened. The guy had guests, and the guy went out screaming at night. He says, "My guest stole my stuff." So everybody knows the story. Okay, even more, I shouldn't believe it. I'll tell you what. That's really what really happened was he sold his stuff, and he knows that the guy he sold it to sold it to somebody else. Okay, and the guy and he feels bad that he sold it, so he wants to get it back. So what does he do? So when he has guests, he finds he's got the perfect subterfuge. He has guests. Everybody knows he had guests. He starts screaming, "My stuff was stolen when the guys visited me." Okay, the answer is Rav Kana Messiah, but he says Mishmei the Rav. So he says what? He says you have to complete what Rav said was like this. So it's not just he had gas and they broke through. They broke a tunnel through the walls. They busted out of his house, to escape. And the people who were staying in his house, they went out. And they have bundles of his utensils on their shoulders. Everybody saying, "Oh, his stuff was stolen." It really is a very, very likely scenario. You understand? They busted out. Okay, says, so what? Even so, how do you know that it's his stuff? Maybe Kalim but maybe okay. Maybe the only all they had was in their hands was the utensils. Who said the books? They had the books. I'm Rav Chia Ba'aba, Rabbi Yochanan Kagon the Kamanami Swarm. They said also no. Also they said also the books of this guy were stolen. Ivalichlish Dilma Zutri Kotaim robbery. 1 second. Maybe only small books were stolen. He's claiming big ones. On a basis of a rumor, how are you going to believe the guy? Rav Yossi Bar Chanini says the Karmei Sefer Ploni Ploni. Though they said such and such a book was stolen. The Farmer's Almanac. I have a deal Mahabi says maybe their old books were talking Khatidis and he's asking for new ones. Amarabi he says no. You have to say could go in the army halalu kelish ploni. They said these are the utensils of the Mr. X and halal these are the books of Mr. X. They saw everything, new books. This one they knew was his, and it was new ones exactly. They identified it. Did Rav really say this? That in such a case where there was like a tunneled out that we could rely on that was stolen from Rav, didn't he say? I was going to show you an interesting point that he couldn't. He can't have said it. Why? Because didn't he say Ababa Machteres? If somebody digs a tunnel, they break it, they sneak into your house at night. When Nato Kalim and he steals Kalim, B'yotza, and he leaves Potter, he's exempt from giving them back, even though they exist. My time, what's the reason? But he bought them with his own blood. Since when a person breaks into your house at night, well, our assumption is what? That if you're going to defend your money, you're going to defend your money. That person's coming in ready to what? Ready to kill you. So when a person breaks into your house, you're allowed to kill them because they're going to kill you. So how could a person who broke in be responsible to return something since he was Chayiv Misa, so it's to be killed? So he acquired this stuff by the fact that his life was forfeit. He actually is exempt for the stuff that he stole. He doesn't have to give it back. So why do we have to give it back? How can Rav say that? When says no, he's making a big mistake. The kind of now when he said that, okay, the mikar marasa. When does a person acquire the stolen? Now we're talking about a person who broke into the house. You understand? And as he broke in, okay, he was giving up his life. These guys came to the Lamasan of Shaila. They were breaking out. They're not breaking in. They weren't putting their life in danger by breaking out. Okay, and the owner wasn't allowed to kill them. If the guys are breaking out of house, you can't shoot them. You can't shoot them when they're breaking out. You shoot them when they're breaking in, not when they're breaking out. Okay. Yeah, you can't. No. You can only kill a guy who's going to kill you. You can't kill a thief. You see, so the guy's breaking out. You don't kill him. You might be angry at him, hit him in the head. No, okay, but what? So but there in that case they don't acquire. Amarava lo shanu ela balabai sasim karkelov. Even that we said that when they say that this is this guy's book, etc., etc. Okay, that they have to farm. When do we have to say they have to have such a stringent law for him to get his stuff back? That he has to have been that he have to say this is his thing. It's a person who is want to sell his things. But a householder who doesn't sell, he's not that kind. He's not a person who's want to sell things. So then what? It says then we don't have to have such explicit testimony that they stole this in this book, etc., etc. Even if the testimony is not that clear, he has a right to get his book back. But the Gemara says what? One second, even the guy doesn't usually sell. Maybe maybe it just happened now. He needed cash and he sold. Ravashi, enough to offset that point. Now we learned in the Mishnah that if a person steals a stolen object, a person buys a stolen object, okay, he has to give it back, but the stolen from has to pay him. So I said to you that was a decree of the rabbis, okay, that he's allowed to get his money. Why? Because otherwise nobody will buy anything from anybody. So the rabbis, in order to make people comfortable to buy in the marketplace, we let the person be reimbursed, even though he shouldn't. By legally, he doesn't have to be reimbursed. Really, the person was stolen from has a right to get his thing back. So let's talk about it. Idmar, we learned. We're going to want to talk now about this din of Takanas Hashuk, that the rabbi said that the person who was stolen from has to pay the person who bought the stolen object in order to keep the market going. Idmar ganav machar. If a guy stole and sold, and then we recognize it was a thief. Everybody knows. They say, "Oh no, we know." They want to know that's the guy who stole it from you. So so now what? Now the question is, can the one who was stolen from, can he still go and collect from the person who bought it? Now we know who the thief is. We know who the thief is. He has an address. Rav Mishneh the Bechia, so Rav said the name Rav Chia Hadin Amarishon. The law is that he has to go to the first one. No, he has to go to the thief and collect his money, and he can no longer go to the buyer. But that's what it looks like. He said, Rabbi Yochanan Mishmei, Rabbi Yanai Omar. He said, no, I didn't Mishmei. No, he can go to the buyer, okay, and he can get his and in this case he can even get his utensil back without paying for it. Remember why? Because the buyer now knows who the thief is. He can go back to the thief. Rav Yossi lo pligi. Rav Yossi says that these two opinions, even though one said go to the buyer and one said go to the thief, they're not really arguing. Why is that? Because they're talking in two different circumstances. When Rav Yochanan, okay, why? When Rav Yochanan said that Rav Yochanan said one second. Yeah, when Rabbi Yochanan said that he has to go to the buyer, okay, he says when Rabbi Yochanan said he goes to the buyer, kan lifnei yesh. That is before the owner gave up hope. So since the owner had given up hope, remember we learned earlier that before you give up hope, the buyer doesn't acquire it. You need giving up hope and what? And change of domain. So the buyer didn't acquire it. So he has a right to go to either one. He can go to the thief or he can go to the buyer. Okay. Okay, and there are Masheni. That's why he can go to the second one. Khan, okay, but when Rav said what, that he goes to the thief, That was after the owner gave up hope, and therefore what? So the second guy really acquired it. Okay, and therefore, and he said, okay, he said, hadin, okay, imarishon, okay, and therefore what? He can go to therefore he goes to the first guy because the second guy acquired it. But Tarvayu and both of them, both opinions, since they agree, they both hold what we earlier a day or two ago, going to Chisda, that before Yerush, the owner, the original owner, can go either to the thief or to the person who bought it. Why? Because they're both considered having stolen from the owner because he never gave up. What says what? Tell me what? Rabbi Yochanan and you're going to tell me that Rab and Rabbi Yochanan are not arguing. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to show you in a case when it came to the gifts to a Kohen. Whenever you shecht an animal, you have to give the Kohen. Kohen gets what is it? The cheeks and the foreleg and the right foreleg and one of the stomachs. He gets. So he says, Amalei Abaya. He says, no, please don't they argue? When it came to the rules of the gifts to a Kohen, by Matnas Kahuna, there's never Yerush. Why is that? Because here there's no which Kohen gave up. It can go to any Kohen. Who's giving up hope over here? So whatever, if the gifts that's supposed to go to a Kohen were stolen, there's no giving up of hope. And there's a second reason also. Since you're obligated to give it to the Kohen's not giving up hope. God said you have to give it to the Kohen. There's no letting go. That's an obligation. You must give these gifts to the Kohen. So the gifts to a Kohen there's never giving up hope. And yet we see that they argued, and they're both talking before Yerush, and yet and you told me about before Yerush, everyone agrees you can collect from the thief or from the buyer. So it's not true. I'll show you that they argue. Okay? Why is that? Because we learned. Amar lo machali shalpara. A guy said to the butcher, he said, sell me the innards of the cow. Okay, well, matanos, and the gifts of the Kohen were mixed in, okay, which really they don't have right to sell, they belong to the Kohen. No son the Kohen, okay, so the guy who bought them, he gives them to the Kohen, and he doesn't get any discount for them. Why? Because obviously, when the butcher sold it to him, he was not charging him for the gifts that go to the Kohen, so he doesn't get to discount anything from the money that he paid because he never sold them. Okay, but if he bought these parts by weight, well, once you weigh them, obviously you're charging because you're charging by weight. Okay, if he bought them by weight, no snow the Kohen, so then the buyer has to give it to the Kohen, and he discounts the price of the weight of those gifts of the Kohen from the butcher. Well, from the butcher. So that's the rule. So you see what? So you see that the buyer has to give the gifts of the Kohen to the Kohen, and he can't say to the Kohen, listen, I have nothing to do with you. Well, Amar Rab, and Rab said about this law, Lo shanu el sheshakol atzmo. Rab said this whole law that the Kohen has a right to get the gifts from the guy who bought them by weight, okay, only when the buyer weighed them himself, because he's the one who stole it. I will shakol tabach, but if it was the butcher who weighed them, okay, now it was really the butcher who was stealing from the Kohen when he weighed them and sold them. Adir matabach. So then the Kohen can't go to the buyer. He has to go back to the butcher and not to the buyer. Even though we said the Kohen never gave up hope. So you see what that Rob holds what that he can only go to the butcher and he can't go to the buyer. So you see that's a kasha to Rabbi Yosef who said that they're not arguing. You see the Rav holding it that even in a case before Yerush, you can only go back to the original thief and not to the buyer. So Rabbi Yosef said back to the buyer, says no. He says Rav never meant in that case that it's specifically with the butcher. Ema, okay, afdin imatabach, not specifically from the butcher. He can collect also from the butcher. It's the rule we said. You can always collect from the thief or you can collect from the buyer. So you can collect from the buyer and even from the thief, who was in this case was the butcher when he did the weighing. Ma'uditayim, what's the reason I had to tell you that? Because I might have thought the truth is that you can't ever successfully steal the gifts to a Kohen, because once God gave it to them, wherever they are, they belong to the Kohen, and therefore and therefore what? And therefore wherever they are, and therefore you always go back. You always go back to the buyer, and you don't go to the butcher. Kamashmi tells me that if the butcher is the one who did the weighing, he stole them, and the Kohen has a right to go to him again. I love According to the buyer says that Rabbi and Yochanan are arguing even before Yesh. My pliga, what's the argument? The answer is Rav Chisda. They're arguing the principle of Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says that whenever something was stolen and the owner didn't give up hope, that really both the thief and the buyer are considered are considered stealers. Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rav Chisda that both of them are stealing, and therefore he says you can go back to the buyer and or to the thief. And Rav holds what? He holds that you can only collect from the thief, and we don't consider the buyer to be a thief even though he bought it before Yeir. Okay, Rav Zavid Amar. Okay, now let's learn more about this argument of Rav and Rav Yochanan. Rav Zavid Amar. Rav Zavid said the following: let's say a person stole an object and the owners didn't give up hope. We said everybody agrees you can go to the second one like Rav Chisda, okay? And now the argument is what is really about but what's the law? The argument is about the law of giving up hope and changing domain. So far, I always told you the way we always said it was a person gives up hope and then the domain changes. But who says, maybe they can happen, maybe it happened in reverse order, maybe the domain can change and the person can give up hope, maybe it's just as good. Is it or isn't it? Okay, here's what happened. If the owners gave up hope, but they only gave up hope not while it was in the hands of the thief. The thief sold it, and then only after it was in the hands of the buyer did the owner give up hope. But they hadn't given up hope in the hands of the thief. And that's the argument. Rabbi Yochanan Sabar, what Rabbi Yochanan thinks, if there was abandonment of hope and then a change of domain, okay, Connie, then the buyer acquires it. Okay, but Shina Rishus for Chakach here, but if there's a change of domain and only afterwards is they're giving up a hope, Lokani, you don't acquire it. And Umar, but when it comes to Rav, he says the other way. Sabra and Loshana, he says no, it makes no difference whether the abandonment of hope came before the change of ownership or the change of ownership came the abandonment of hope. In both cases, the buyer acquires. But Papa Amar, he says here's another way to explain what the argument is. Okay, the argument is where the person bought the object before the original owner gave up hope, and they both agree that everybody is like a thief. The only thing is big lima. Okay, but when it comes to when it comes to the coat, the actual coat, let's say that the thief stole the kuliyam lepligada, the marayu. Everybody agrees that, but the coat has to go back to the owner for free. Why? Because nobody's allowed. They're not okay, and the person cannot hold on to the stolen coat. You can't say, look, until you give me money. And the argument here is whether this person benefits. Remember, from this decree that we said that the buyer, even though legally has to give it back, has a right to say you have to pay me money. Why? Because the rabbis want to make sure that people won't be afraid to buy things. Okay, what is the price? Rav Mishmei the Rabbi Chia Amar Hadinim Arishon. He says what? Okay, that the rule is that the person was stolen from has to go to the pardon me. He doesn't mean he doesn't mean that he goes to the thief, but it means rather what the buyer has to go back to the original person. Okay, meaning to say what? Dinner de lokech, it means to say what? That the person who bought the object, the lishkol zuzi meganov, he gets his money back from whom? He gets his money back from the thief. He doesn't get his money back from the person who was stolen from. And we don't make for him the decree of the marketplace to let him get paid, to make him get paid by the original owner. He says no. He says the buyer has to, the buyer's rule. Okay, that means to say, what? It means that the buyer has a right. He has to go back to two back, and he gets it from the owner. And he has the benefit of this decree that he has the right to get his money, so the people won't be afraid to buy. The summer Rob, okay, lost about Takana. What I say is Rob hold it that when we know, if I wasn't clear, we mean to say no. We all know there's such a thing as the takana, that the buyer has a right to get his money back, but maybe that's only when we don't know who the thief is. When we know, maybe he has to go back to the thief. That's the argument here. Everybody agree. We all know that when a guy bought something, and we find that it was stolen, he benefits from the decree of the marketplace, and the owner has to give him money, even though legally he doesn't have to, but he has to give it to him. He has to give it to him, so we won't be afraid to buy. But we said maybe that's only when we don't know who the thief is. But once we know there's a thief, maybe there's no dispensation to the buyer. Why? Because since he knows who the thief is, let him go and get his money back from the thief. So that's the argument. One opinion is even so, he gets money from the original person who was stolen from. One says no, the person he's stolen from doesn't have to pay it because he has recourse to go to the thief. Okay, that's one. Vasaba Rav also want to tell me what the Rav holds, that if we know who the thief is, that the buyer doesn't get the benefit of the decree, and the original owner gets it back without paying him and he has to go to the thief. Okay, Hanan Bisha is a very famous bad guy in Gemara. Hanan the bad guy. We had him earlier. Okay, he was a tough guy. Hanan, the famous Hanan the bad guy, son of Glima Bazavnos. He stole somebody's coat and he sold it. After the comedy of Huna, when he came, so now. So the original, the guy who was stolen from, came to get the buyer to give him back his coat. Varmaleh, Rav Huna said, Lahu Gabri, he said to the person who was stolen from, Zil Shoyavita, go and redeem your deposit. In other words, what? Yes, get your coat back from the guy who bought it, but pay him as if it's a deposit. Pay him, you understand? Go redeem your deposit. Pay him for your collateral. Okay, so how come? But 1 second, if you just told me what did he hold, what that when we know who the thief is, Hanan Bisha, when we know who the thief is, that there is no takana sashok. How come he told him to pay? It's a shani Hanan Bisha. It's different. Why? Because came to the really the rule is that when you know who the thief is, the buyer has to go back to the thief, and the original owner doesn't have to pay him. But in this case, since even though we knew who the thief was, since he's a violent man, okay, and it's very hard to collect from. The lekali shlimina, he's a very violent man. You can't collect from him. That even though it's a case where we knew the thief was, we consider it a case where we don't know who the thief is, and we do award the buyer with the dispensation of getting his money back because it's a case, but normally that's the case. Amar Rabbi Magadim before some rules. So Rabbi said what? Any case where that a guy bought something from a known thief. Everybody knows this guy's a thief. Remember, you're going to go out and start buying stuff from a known thief. Where I used to live in Phoenix, when people were stolen from, the police told the people which pawn shop they could find their jewelry in. I'm serious. Even though the police couldn't get the thief, and even though the police couldn't get the thief, and they couldn't get the pawn shop, they're going to get money back. They said, if you want your rings back, go to this pawn shop. I'll have them, huh? And buy from the pawn shop. They said, listen, we're not going to do anything. We can't do anything for you. But if you really like your jewelry, you can go buy back at this pawn shop. That's empty now. So what happened? So we got a big problem. And in fact, I actually discussed it with one of our Gedolei Ador who passed away. In fact, he wrote me a tshuva about it because in a lot of places it's clear. Everybody, like in the case I just told you, everybody knows that the pawn shops are full of stolen goods. So there's a real question whether anybody any religious man can go and buy from a pawn shop. They're full of. Everybody knows they're full of stolen goods. So how can you go buy there? It's a big problem. So one great rabbi said, so one great rabbi basically told me no. So we have to. It needs to be discussed. You can't buy because I told you the police were directing the householders to the pawn shops to get their stuff. Oh, okay, but there's a lot of things to discuss over here about. Right, there's a lot to talk about. But I'm saying, but the question is, we got these big problems over here. Can you go and buy from the pawn shop? No, okay, it needs to be discussed. It's not clear to me. It needs to be discussed. Yeah. Okay, you have to discuss pawn shop. But anyway, it's an interesting. If you want to go buy from a pawn shop, go ask your local rabbi before you go to buy. No, when I was a kid, everybody wanted to buy in pawn shop because that's where you got good instruments. The place to get cheap instruments was pawn shops because musicians were always falling upon hard times. So you could get really outstanding instruments for very cheap in pawn shops. That was the place to get them. Amar Rabba said, "Ima gana before samu." He says. Now, if you have a case where the thief is everybody knows that a given guy is a thief. That's what I was just elaborating on. Then you're not protected anymore. If you buy from a known thief, nobody says, "Listen, I want my money back." Tough luck, buddy. We're not giving you money back. What are you doing? Buying from a known thief? Okay, the owner gets it back, and he doesn't have to pay you. You should have known. I go, 1 second, before some 1 second, he just told me the case. Everybody knows Chanan Bisha was a thief. And we just saw the case where they did give the buyer the benefit of the Takanas Hashok. The Gemara says no. The Gemara says no, you're making a mistake. Then he was forced in the Vishusa. Yes, Chanan Bisha was known as a bad man. He beat people up. He hit him in the ear. Okay, like an Evusalo wasn't a known thief. He was a known bad guy. He was not a known. He was a known bad guy, but he wasn't a known thief. He was a known violent man, but not a known. Well, not, slow down, buddy. Let's give credit where credit is due. His reputation was for being a violent person, not for being a thief. Hey, we draw the line somewhere over here, buddy. Beating people up is one thing. Stealing is a whole nother pot of kettle. Itmar, we learned another thing. He says, Gona b'par schova. Now, so we're still examining this decree of the rabbis that encourages people to buy by giving them compensation, even though they bought stolen goods innocently. Itmar, we learned Gona b'par b'chova. If a guy stole and instead of selling it, he stole a coat and paid his debt with it. Gona b'par b'kefo. He stole a coat and paid his grocery bill with it. He had a bill to grocery. Now the grocer or the guy or the creditor does not get the benefit. Okay, why is that? He didn't buy anything. The whole point was to encourage buy. He's not buying anything. Okay, so since the whole point of what Takanas Shuk was to make people not hesitant to buy, these guys didn't buy. Okay, they got paid. They got paid with stolen goods. The Amr says, "Lo adaita danu yivas le'mida." He says, you never gave when you gave the original loan to the thief, when you gave a chit at your grocery store. You weren't thinking of getting the coat. You understand? So you never innocently bought the coat. Here's the coat. You got stolen goods. Is what you got. You got to give him back. We're not protecting you. Mashkanto. Okay. Let's say a guy stole something and he gives the stolen object as a surety, as a guarantee for his loan. Shavi Masan. So he took what? So let's say the thing that he stole is worth 200, and he gave it as a collateral for 100. Okay, then the lender is protected. Okay, why is that? Because he gave him the 100. Okay, or relying on the object that he gave him. It's like he's like a buyer. He definitely had in mind, you understand, to get this thing. Shava b'shava. But if the thief gave a surety for equal value, gave the same amount of a stolen object that he's going to borrow, a Meimer says in that case we don't protect the creditor. Why? Because nobody lends equal for equal and equal collateral, and therefore what he was really trusting the guy. He didn't give the money on the basis of the surety, and therefore he's not protected. He said no. He says we still give him the benefit even in such a case. This parentheses is taken out. The parentheses, but people take it out. Okay, Zavina. Okay, let's say the thief stole the object. Okay, Shava b'shava. Okay, if he sold it for its proper value, also so then the buyer is protected by this decree. Shava meya. But if he stole an object worth 100 b'masan and he sold it for 200, Rav Shesha says what? Now the buyer is not protected. Okay, and he doesn't even get the 100. The buyer is not protected. Why is that? Because because if he gave him 200 for a 100 thing, so he was giving him a gift on the 100. So also the 100 that it was worth, he really didn't give it because of the object. He gave it because he wanted to give it to him. Rabbi says no. He definitely is protected. Okay, Elite knows that what. Okay, and he's gonna get the 200. Why? Because sometimes a person will buy something. A person will buy something for more than it's worth. He likes it a lot. He wants it, so he paid more. We know that it happens. Now the halacha in all these cases where there was a machlokas of the Moraim. Okay, also in all those cases where we had a toss up, the answer is that we do give the guy the benefit of the decree. The bar miganavu par b'chova, except for the case where the guy stole and paid his debt with the stolen object. Or a guy stole and paid off his grocery bill. In those cases, we do not give the creditor the benefit because he really did not do anything on the basis of the object. Avivi bar Nazi, Hamud Ravina, Nasi, who was the father-in-law of Ravina, having Masik Bahu Gavra, he was dunning a certain guy for Abrazuzah. A guy owed him 4 zuz, and he wanted to get it. So the guy who owed him the money stole the coat and gave it to him. Okay, he gave it to the father-in-law. Okay, Osve and then he lent him, so he gave him a coat, and he lent him another 4 zuz. Okay, so, and then we found out who the thief was. Okay, who stole the who stole the coat. He was recognized, right? After they come into Ravina, and now they came in front of Ravina. And the question is now we want to know, does the lender get the credit of the Takanas Hashuk? Amar, so he says he said, listen, the first 4 zuz that you lent, says Ganava para b'chova. That's a case of a guy. That was the simple case of a guy stealing and paying off his debt. You didn't buy anything, and therefore you're not going to get the credit. Okay. Therefore what? So the owner of the original object doesn't have to pay back anything. But the second four that you lent on the basis of that he brought it to you, that he says, take your money, that you have right to the four, and give back the code. Rav Cohen argue with this. What are you talking about? He says, one second. He says, how do we know that he gave the second four? How do you know they gave even the second four zuz on the basis of the coat? Really, maybe he gave him the coat, okay, just because of the first loan, okay, and that's what we say, Gonav par b'chovo, Gonav par kefon. It's a case of really what? It's just a case of stealing and paying back your debt, or stealing and paying back your chit at the grocery store. Rabba Zuzi Basrai, and the second four that he lent him, okay, there's also no protection for him of the kind of the shuk. Why? Because he didn't lend him because of the garment. And when he maybe disbelieved him, and then maybe card. It's like he believed him for the first four, he believed him for the second four. So he so the case was dragged on, and finally came in front of Rabba Bo. Amar Rabba Bo said, the halach is like Rav Cohen, and you're right. He says he doesn't get any protection whatsoever. We consider both four to have lent them on trust and not on the basis of the garment.
Where did you come up with it? I mean, you could have gone the other way.
Yeah, and why did he make that value? It actually doesn't say. I can pause it, but he doesn't say. He says, okay, I guess he says the reasoning is good enough. My simple answer would be that the decrees of the rabbis are for the most likely cases. In this case, it's enough not likely to say that the decree didn't cover it. That's what I would think. Okay, now Shaw. Okay, but you're right. It doesn't say. Now Shaw. Okay, this is a little interesting case. I have to read it properly. I hope I don't make a mistake. Hashem should protect me. Now Shaw, a guy from Narash. Okay, gone of Safra. Okay, he stole a book. Zabne lepapunai b'taman zuz, and he sold it to a guy from Papuna for 80 zuz. The second buyer, okay, the Papunai Zavid Labar Mechazi, he sold to a guy from Mechuza, he sold it for 120. So the guy sold it for 80. The guy for 80 sold it for 120. The Sof Hukar got him. In the end, they caught the thief. Everybody knows who they got witnesses who the thief was. So now what? And now the owner wants to get back he wants to get back his book. Okay, Amar Abaya. So Abaya said, Leizil Mari this Safra Leila Bar Mechoza. He said the owner of the book should go to the last buyer, the guy who bought it for 120, Tamanya Zuzi, let him collect 80 from the last guy. Okay. Why? Because because that's what the guy who sold it to him bought it for. The Shakal Safra, let me get his book. He's only going to give him 80. And the guy who paid the 120, the third guy in the line, let him go back and get his 40 from the second guy, okay, because that was that guy's profit. Let him. He's going to pay what the original guy sold it for, and the third guy's going to get the second guy make up from the second guy the profit he made from the 80 to 120. Get from the guy number two. Market flow. Rabba said, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? If we protect the guy who bought from a thief, he bought it directly. No, not knowingly. A guy, but he bought it from the thief, and we protect him. We say, listen, he didn't know. We protect him. He says, okay. He says, lokech, me buy a guy who bought it from the guy who bought it. You're not going to protect. He's innocent, or he's more innocent. What do you want from the guy? If you're protecting the original buyer, you should certainly protect buyer number two. He's even more innocent. You protect him. Why does he have to go and claim his 40? He should protect him for the whole 120. Protect him. Okay. Okay. Pardon me. I'm sorry. I didn't say right. He should. If in order to encourage, you're encouraging everybody, and so the owner has to pay him. If the owner has to pay a first buyer, he certainly should pay the second. Why is he only paying the second buyer 80? He should pay the second buyer the full 120. Protect the second buyer even more than protect the first. Make the owner pay everything. What's going on? Alama Rabba said, "Don't worry. Here's the real law. Lezel married the Safra behave lebar mechozah. The owner of the book should go and pay buyer number two, pay him the whole 120 that he paid. B'shakol Sifrei, let him get his book. V'leizo Mari the Sifra, and the owner should go back. V'lishkol Arba'ami, and then let him get the extra 40, let him get the 40 that the second guy profited by selling it from guy number 2, and then from original thief he gets back his 80. Okay, now we have a new case of a guy. We're talking about people who lose money to save their friend money. So we don't know what does the guy get back. I sacrifice my money to save your money. How much, when, where, and how much do I get paid back? He didn't hire me. I stepped in. What's the law? Okay, we're going to learn. This is different than we learned earlier. One guy's going along with a pitcher full of wine. Remember, the language changed. We said it's all the same. Barrel, pitcher, it's all the same in these cases. What? And this guy comes along with his barrel of honey. So the honey barrel became split, and the honey's more expensive. But and this guy spilled out his wine. And he saved the guy's honey into his wine barrel. He only gets paid for his work and for the rental of his barrel, but he doesn't get paid for his wine, as we'll see. But if he said explicitly, listen, I'm going to save yours, and you're going to pay me for mine that I'm going to spill out, then he does have to pay him. If he said explicitly, then he does get paid for the wine that he lost. The river washed away his donkey and his friend's donkey. His is worth 100 and his friend's is worth 200. This guy let go of his that was worth 100. He saved this. He said that guy's friend's car is better, so he saved his friend's donkey, which is worth 200. Again, he only gets paid for his work, but he doesn't get paid back for his donkey. But if he said to the guy, hey, what do you say? I'll save yours. You'll pay me for mine. Then he does have to pay him, but he can't say, listen, I was just fooling you. I was under pressure. But you're not let it say in those cases. He doesn't say that. He has to pay him. Now let's okay. Yeah. It simply has to show that he made sense. Yeah, that he made sense to it. It's not so push. I mean, actually, you know what? Let's hold before I answer this because he might be able to say in front of Basin. He might be able to say in front of Basin. We're going to see. So maybe. Let's. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this point. Let's see. I don't remember. Let's see. Okay, now, Mamai. 1 second. We said, why is it that he only gets his work or his rental? Okay. Why doesn't he get paid for his wine? Okay. Let the wine guy say to the honey guy, 1 second. He says, your thing was lost. Your thing was gone. I own everything that I say. What do you mean you're not going to pay me back for my wine? I own all the honey. You lost your honey. Goodbye, Charlie. It was Hefker. You have no ownership. Your thing is lost. Milo Tanya Dimon, I'm going to show you when a thing, remember I discussed this yesterday. If once a thing is out of your domain, they can have your name on it. It belongs to me. You lost it. It's gone. You're finished, okay? Milo Tanya Dimon, a guy's got pitchers of wine and oil. Rosh Misabos, the guy sees that they're breaking. Lo Yomar, the person, the owner of these goods, he should not say. He figures the guy's a smart guy. He's going to make money. He's going to make money on the gifts. Hari is that true? Myself, appreciation, but don't basic. Oh, that stuff is going. You know the story I told you. My father, a blessed memory. He says the mother gives the kid 2 nickels. He's got the kid's going to Cheder. He says, listen, one is for you to buy a candy bar, and one is to give to tzedakah when you go to Cheder. The kid's walking down the street. He's flipping the coins up, flipping up. He's flipping up. Oh, he misses it. It goes down the sewer. He says, there's God's nickel. This went in the sewer. What he is, guys? The guy sees now that the stuff's about to go down the drain. He says, quickly before it drains out of the barrel. That's the money I'm giving to the Kohen. That's the true. He thinks he'll make money. He says he's going to say that. He says he shouldn't do that. If he did do it, he says that's going to be truma and meiser, etc. He says lo maklum. If he did it, it's nothing. Why? Because why? Because it's hefker. And once it's hefker, with this hefker stuff, you're not going to be able to redeem the other stuff. Okay. So if you see that once the stuff is lost, it's considered to be ownerless. So why doesn't the wine guy say, listen, your honey was ownerless. It's gone. You lost it. Rav Yomi, so he says, so we're going to see. We answer, it's similar that Rav Yomi answers a different question. Because we're talking where the stuff was not going to just dump out in one shot. It was really surrounded by a type of spongy netting. When you would take let's say olives, and you put them into like a spongy material to hold them while you press them, so that it's like a sponge. It doesn't leak out that quickly. So later we talk about where barrels are wrapped up in this kind of netting or sponging. Okay, these barrels are covered in a type of absorbent material, so it's not going to disappear. It's not completely hefker. It's not gone. It's going, but it's not gone. So you can't say, look, I was zochah from the hefker. You weren't zochah from the hefker. It's not gone. It still belongs to the guy, and that's why he doesn't have to say it all belongs to me. Now, okay, now 1 second. But now let's examine this case. What do you mean? How come if he says it's truma meiser, it's nothing? What do you mean it's nothing? What time didn't we learn it could be good? Must be other. A guy's coming along the road and he has money in his hand. Be honest, connect. When he sees what a marauder or one of these a thief is about to steal from him, Lo Yomer, he figures, oh, quickly again, I'll use God's nickel. Yomer, Hari, Perishation with the Basi, He says, listen, Maisa Shani that I have my house, it's now redeemed on this coin that the guy's about to steal from me. He wants to make a little money on God's nickel. He knows, okay, he's about to be stolen from. He says he shouldn't do it. Okay, but if he shouldn't say it, but if he said it, it works. You just told me what if he said it doesn't work because it's Hefker. You see, it's not Hefker. As long as he's got it. Okay, Gemara says no, it's no comparison. Over there, it's a case where it's not clear that the thief is going to get it. He's got a good chance to save it. It's not clear. It's going to be a fair fight over here. It's not clear that it's not all is lost. But if all was lost, you're right that he can't. If all is lost, then he can't do it because he doesn't own it. But if it's maybe lost, then he can use it to redeem. He shouldn't. It's not nice, but he can do it. So 1 second. If he's able to save it, so how come he can't say it? Then he does. If he's able to save it, so he still owns it. How can he use it to redeem? I'll tell you why. Because it's not exactly a 50-50 fight. Maybe he's going to do it. It's enough of a danger that he really shouldn't do it, but it's not so much of a danger that if he did it doesn't work. It's not so much of a danger that it's hefker. On the other hand, it's enough of a danger that it's not nice. He shouldn't be doing that. Okay. When you went to tell me any place where the stuff that you're using for redemptions, etc., is in danger, you shouldn't take advantage. And only after the fact is okay. Before the fact is not okay. Well, Tanya, didn't we learn? A guy's a Levi, so he has meiser that's tamei. So he owes the Kohen. He has 10 barrels of tamei meiser. Okay. Now, so he still has to give it to the Kohen. The Kohen can use that stuff. We'll see. He can burn it. He can do different things, but he can't eat it. Okay. But he still has to give the Kohen the trumas meiser. So now, and he sees that one of his 10 barrels of this stuff that's tamei anyway. Okay, that it became broken, or that it was giloy. Remember, in those days, giloy, a thing that was open, and we're afraid a snake put the venom into it. You're not allowed to drink it. So he sees either one, that it was broken, or that it was that it got snake venom. Omer, he says, he takes that barrel and he's allowed to use it as one of the to take the chumas meiser on the other ones. Okay, on the other ones. Okay, now what? Now the only thing is what? And even though even though he's taking from Chumas Meiser that the Kohen can't drink, as we'll see, the Kohen still has a use for it. He can spritz it, for perfume in the house. He had to make it smell good, or you can damp down the house. Okay, so therefore he can do it. Okay, ubeshemen, but when it comes to oil, okay, lo yasink. When it comes to oil, he shouldn't do it. Why? Because they have said coin, because that the Kohen's really going to lose. The Kohen is going to have a severe loss if he doesn't. If he gives them this. Why? Because Tomei Truma is fit to burn. So you see clearly from this brisa, when it's a little bit of a loss, even from the outset, you're allowed to give the gift from something that's going to be lost. How come by the case of the thief, where the loss is not that great? Why do we say from the outset you can't do it? Then you should, even when there's a little loss, even from the outset, you should be able to dedicate it or to redeem it. Rav Yemi, he said what? Keshe Ekel. He says, I'll tell you why. Because this second brisa is talking about what the loss is really small. It's where that spongy stuff is on the outside of the barrel. It's really, really slowly seeping. It's not really a loss. Okay, so there's almost no loss of the coin whatsoever. Then you can do it lechatchila. But if there's a little more loss, but not a complete loss, then already it's forbidden from the outset, but it's okay after the fact. Bishlam, the Gemara says, 1 second, that's very nice, Nishbra. What you said is very fine when you said where the barrel broke, okay? We can talk about where the spongy stuff is on the outside. Chazia, it's still good. El Nisgalgula, my Chazia, but when the stuff has the snake venom in it, he says it's not good for anything. You can how can you use it as the to how can you use it to as the Trumas Meiser? It's not good for anything. He said, well, no, you can use it for perfuming. He says, well, Tanya Maim, it's not true. We're going to learn that anything when there's gilu with snake venom and stuff, you can't use it. He says, Maim shin is galu, if water was open and it's good with the snake venom, you don't throw them into the public domain. Maybe someone's going to walk on them and get sick from walking on them. It'll go into an injury. You can't use them to mix clay because it'll get into the person's hands. You can't use it even to tamp down the dust in the house because we're all afraid that it's going to damage people that are going to walk on it. And you can't use it. You can't even give it that water to your animal, to your friend's animal. Okay, because if somebody's going to shecht and eat it, and they're going to get sick from that. Okay, or at least you're going to waste the animal. So therefore, what? So the same thing. So how can you tell me that you can use that the Kohen's not going to be able to use this wine at all, even for perfuming? Okay, the answer is no. The answer is no. No, because there is a way. Even when snake venom gets into a thing, if you put it through a strainer, the strainer will strain out the snake venom. The venom itself is spongy, and it can be you can You can depoison the mixture by putting it through a strainer. Okay, like we learned, it was an argument by Rabbi Nechemia held that you can fix wine that got snake venom. The Tanya goes, now, let me explain. Their strainer was like this. There were two chambers, a lower chamber where the wine was, an upper chamber where you put the dregs and it would go through and the wine would drain down. So so now we're afraid what about snake venom in the upper chamber? The time we learn, if you have the strainer, one utensil on top of the other with the strainer in the middle, we do have to worry about what? Being open to snake venom, okay, that the snake shouldn't get into it. Okay, and therefore what? So you have to cover them. And even the top one that's going to go through the strainer, you have to cover that and worry about the snake. Chemin said no. Masai says, when do you have to worry about a snake? Only when the bottom one is open. As long as the bottom one is covered, even if the top one is open, there's no problem of exposed liquids. Why? Because he says, because snake venom is like this spongy material, okay, but and it's going to stay, it'll float above the strainer when the dregs are being strained, so you don't have to worry about it. So at least according to Nechemia, we can say what? That there is a way for the Kohen to use the revealed liquid wine because you can put it through a strainer, so it still has some value. It's a loss, but it still has value. Okay, it still has value. Gemara said, one second. That's not true. You're making a big mistake. It still doesn't have value. We learned it's not universal. You can't just take stuff with snake venom and strain it. It's only going to work if it was never disturbed. If from the time, so for example, if the snake put the venom on the dregs above this thing, it was never mixed up with the wine. It just was floating. Then you can defang it, so to speak. But once you mix it, you can't do the trick of putting it through a strainer. It's not going to work anymore because it's all mixed up. Lavidmar, didn't we learn? Simon, Levi, Lo Shanu, Ella Shalo Turako. We learned that whole rule of Nechemia of straining is only when you didn't mix it up. You didn't mix it in. Okay, Avol Turako, once you mixed it up, you mixed up the snake venom with the wine. Also, you can't strain it. It's not going to help. It says no. It says no. Even though it was mixed up, Nami, and when this guy's going to pour it, since it has to be transferred. Okay, since it has to be transferred. Okay, even the pouring into a strainer where it's not already stationary above the strainer is already going to be mixing up. He says no. Hasam nami efshei, he can do it. Why? The manach midei apumi de chavisa. There's a way to do it without mixing it up. What do? Instead of pouring the wine from the barrel into the strainer, which will mix it, what you do is you put the strainer right on top of the barrel. You put cheesecloth or whatever. You put the cloth on top of the barrel. Okay, apumi de chavisa, the shavik lane. You just pour it out. So you don't pour into the strainer. It's poured the way it is. The strainer is directly there, just like before it was on top of the strainer. Now the strainer is on top of it, and it goes directly out. Okay. We have to.
What do you mean directly out?
I know you're not mixing up. You're not mixing up the wine and the snake venom before you strain it. It's happening simultaneously. You just totally. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia. So what? Okay, Rabbi Nechemia. Okay, when we said it, what? Mita. I mean, 1 second, but I have a problem. You wanted to make this like the opinion of Rabbi Nechemia, but I have a problem for a whole different reason. This can't be Rabbi Nechemia. Why? Because when did Rabbi Nechemia hold you can't take truma from a tummy thing to a tummy thing? Well, Tanya, we learned you can give truma of unclean and unclean, minatar or clean or unclean, minatar latame, clean or unclean. Avolav atame, you can't give from tummy produce on clean produce because the coin loses. Okay, Rabbi Nechemia Omer af minatame al tame lo yiti. The true Rabbi Nechemia says no. You can't even take truma from clean to clean. Okay, so I got a problem. So how can you tell me this is Rabbi Yirmiyah? You can't do from tummy to tummy. Obviously, but says no way. You have to say the case over there was what? Was the case of where we only had to take Trumas and Maisos Misafik. We bought it from the Amaretz, and most uneducated people take Trumas and Maisos, but the rabbis were machmir and said you have to take. So since we're only taking here rabbinically, and the assumption is really what? That it was already taken. So just like we said in another case, that it's a Truma of Demai, Hachalam here too, B'Shal Demai, it was a case where the Truma was Demai. And I think we'll stop here. We'll pick it up tomorrow. That was a big, big page. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Huh?
A page and a half.
There's a page and a half. It's gigantic. My goodness. Yeah, these are big. Well, because you know why? Because the Indian sector is coming to an end.
This is really a shas pair. It goes through everything.
Every oh yeah, everything to you. It's true. Antonians. I followed all the hot stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of hard stuff.
But I got stuck.
Yeah, good.
Numbers. But I always get stuck.
Me too.
Okay.
Now, how about you?
Oh,
He's still
Right.
You're
Sold
gonna
it.
bring Mel back.
the thief sold me.
Michael doesn't feel it. No, you don't.
He
Didn't.
said he was tired.
They're right. The 80 guys. So the thief sold it for 80. The 80 guys sold it for 120.
Okay. Thief was discovered. The owner of the book is
Guy number 3 who bought it for 120. The guy bought it for 120. He gets more 80. And now the owner's only going to give 80. Why? Because he course to the guy 40. Guy number 2 sold it to him for 120. He takes the profit. He goes back and gets it. No, he takes the profit from guy number 2. The 120 gets it. The 120 guy gets his 120, but he only gets 80 from the owner, and then he recovers 40 from the guy who sold it to him.
So he comes out whole.
That's the first opinion.
Okay.
That's the first opinion. Yeah. So the guy said, "Listen, that's not fair. You have to protect it.
The guy. Oh, here's the guy.
No, the-